Welcome back for episode 2 of In the Making. I'm Baratunde Thurston, and I'm joined again by Michael McAfee and Ashleigh Gardere of PolicyLink. And we're back! No, we're not going to. It's not that kind of show. But I want to focus on this word founder. This overall roadmap is we are founders. You're asking people to see themselves as founders of a nation. We already have a nation. There's some people who we've elevated as founders already. Why are you asking folks alive right now to consider themselves to be founders?
We're asking folks to stretch. And we know oftentimes when you ask people to stretch, if you can't connect with the mental model that they hold, it's hard for them to make the leap. And so this notion of being a founder is an invitation for us. It is an invitation to say, you know, this democracy is a living, breathing organism. And it needs to be tended to. And there's a choice whether we do that or not, right? And so we want people to step into that invitation, not just to critique it, not just to critique the founding documents, but actually to say, you know what? As brilliant and imperfect as their work was, when we take our hand off of it, it will still be brilliant and imperfect. But that does not mean we don't try. And for our movement has never really saw themselves as founders. They've never really wanted to say, you know what, that's our Constitution too. That's our Bill of Rights. That's our Declaration of Independence. And I don't think we can go much further if we don't own this stuff. It's one thing to sit on the sideline, but if you stay on the sideline, then you're always critiquing what someone's doing to you. We're saying, no, this is your birthright to own these documents. It is your birthright to make them be all they need to be. And we don't need to be such perfectionists that we can't get the subtle nuance of what we're trying to say. Founding for us is not a manifest destiny founding.
Thank you. Okay.
It's not what we're talking about. It is a founding to say, there are always founding moments in a nation. What will ours be? Call it. Be big enough to call it, brave enough to call it, courageous enough to call it. Most importantly, be courageous enough to get off the sideline and put your hand to the wheel. So for us, that's why we use a founding moment, because we want people to imagine, just as transformational as Hamilton was in the founding and in the movie, what that did for folks, I want folks to think about, I can be that.
Do we have to rap?
It could help. It would help.
Is that a prerequisite for founding?
It would help. That's right. It would help. That's what we're trying to get at, though.
Can I add to that? So our journeys were not on the sideline journeys. I shared with you, really growing up in New Orleans and then growing up in the work after Hurricane Katrina. And I have good education. I have shiny sheets of paper that taught us how to do all the best practices, and we did them, right? So putting people at the center, data-driven decision-making, collective impact, we did all of that. And we saw change happen. We moved the needle. And then in just 3 to 5 years, the needle would just slide back. And I actually came to PolicyLink because I wanted to understand, I can't do that again. That was 20 years. and it hurts, right? Well, when I arrived at PolicyLink, I met Michael, who, for the work I was doing in a local context, he had done nationally. So this is the dude that scaled Harlem Children's Zone into promised neighborhoods. 300,000 children across this country have been impacted by his work. Did we close the wealth gap? No. Are we seeing better outcomes? No. And so to your question about why be founders, well, because playing within the design that we already have will never deliver the outcomes that we want. Short term, yes, but we'll never actually get to a place where all of us are thriving together. The other question is why not? Them dudes were 30 years old. Right? They were babies. And they were just fed up. And if we hold the imperfection, if we hold the self-interest, knowing that we have those things too, then seems like we're as fit as they were. for the mission. So that's why, because why not?
Because I wanted us to seriously go to the heart of the matter and own it. Own it the way you critique it. And I wanted you to sit with that. See, I don't want you to run away from it.
Yeah.
You know, I want you to sit with what it means to be a founder or not. One way or the other. You can not be a founder and stop getting mad at what's going on in Texas right now.
In other words, Michael said, walk it like you
Talk it.
Yeah.
Bottom line. The question is, can we live into the aspiration of that word? I also have thought about, how do we bring our indigenous brothers and sisters into the center of this founding, right?
Yeah.
And to struggle with that complexity, right? So I use that word with great humility because there's so much that we could not get right.
Yeah.
And that we have to get right.
Yeah.
It's not that we don't know that the word is fraught. I mean, if that's the question, we absolutely understand that. And there's also no perfect word.
But what has been surprising is that when we're out there in audiences of people with all walks of life, all races, when you say that it is an invitation, I've never seen people wake up so differently. And to me, that was the leadership opportunity that we wanted. They don't even know what they're waking up into. I can be that.
Yeah.
I haven't fully thought about what it means, but I haven't seen myself like that. And that's what we want.
People often rise to the level of what's expected of us.
That's right.
And so if you expect consumers, you'll get a lot of consumption.
That's right.
You expect shopping, you expect viewers and audience members and taxpayers. Like there's a lot of other words to describe slices of our ability to participate in the system. Voters even isn't big enough because who's choosing what's on the ballot? That's not a voter. That's some committee somewhere. That's a political party. That's a different process. So founder kind of skips over all that. And it's like, okay, we're going to set rules here. We're going to set direction together. So I love the invitation. I can appreciate the sensitivity
absolutely.
around it.
Absolutely.
And it's, the invitation to walk it like you talk it and not just be like you're the most participating, not just watching the game, and to get a do-over.
Yes.
I think there's a story of this country where it's already done. It's either been cursed from the start, so it was never going to be right, or we gave it a good go and it didn't work out. Like it's been an experiment. Not all experiments are successful. So maybe this one, maybe it didn't pan out. And so we tried. And so that's the America story. But if we invite in more founders at this moment, then we're resuscitating something. We're breathing new life. With an acknowledgement of those first founders didn't honor as much as they could have the indigenous offerings that were here.
And imagine if our babies could carry the responsibility of seeing themselves as founders from being a child.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm coming to that notion in my 50s.
Right.
Imagine the responsibility, how you would move through the world differently.
In this series my wife and I did, How to Citizen, we were interpreting citizen as a verb and highlighting stories of people practicing power and practicing democracy at every level. And Adrienne Marie Brown, super dope, wise sister. She was a guest on the show talking about fractals and how everything exists, like a pattern that repeats at small and macro scales, our thumb and the galaxy, kind of similar. And so if we can demonstrate, it opens up possibility. Because if you can demonstrate it in your church, in your organization, in your home, then you can demonstrate it at a national or even global level.
And we cannot ask the nation to do something that we're not willing to do ourselves.
Yes.
We can't.
No.
And you would assume that it's, if we don't practice it, and if we haven't fallen out with each other, and if we haven't been like, oh, why won't they just listen, right? Or all of that, then it also means that we don't understand how difficult the request that we're making is.
It builds credibility and experience points.
Yes.
Strength.
I got my street credit democracy.
Yes. And then you approach somebody else, in that situation of talking to someone who's even more different, who has a very different political, like presumably most of the people who work at PolicyLink are mostly politically aligned for the most part relative to the span of the country. But you're trying to do something for all, right? Yeah. So how are you going to have credibility with somebody from a very different point on the spectrum if you haven't demonstrated some rupture, some repair, some ability to listen and contend with different ideas?
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I wish you all the best in that. That sounds hard. That democracy thing sounds like real work.
It's real work.
I don't know. Second guessing my commitment to this in the making. Yes. But it's a labor of love. On the love topic, I want to stick there for a moment. When I hear the word love in the context of a society, not a romantic thing, I think vaguely of Martin Luther King Jr. And bell hooks, love ethic. I think Valerie Kaur and revolutionary love. And there's a common definition of like, this isn't sentimental. It's not mamby-pamby. It's not necessarily soft or weak. It's something firmer, but there's a commitment to it. Why are you using the word love so much? And what do you mean by it in the context of being founders of For All, of redesigning and refounding a nation in this moment?
Well, I'll repeat something I said earlier, which is that if we cannot manifest souls that love all, we can't hold all of our humanity, we will never govern for all. We're just playing, right? Like when you were kids, remember like you would be like playing tag in the yard, and then like your little sister who was like 2 would come out there and they'd be like running around, but you didn't want them to sit down because they, but
they're messing up again.
Right, but you're like, they playing for F-U-N. They playing for F-U-N because they can't spell, so they don't know, right? That's all we're doing. Like we're playing for fun, and not for keeps, right? And so love actually has everything to do with governing. Right? Otherwise, we're just playing. That's my short answer.
No, I totally agree. And it's also, for me, how I continue to become more human. Right? It's how I find my humanity and my soul work. Trying to do what's right. I don't really need a fancy definition about it. For me, it is, I look you in the eye and say, will I do what you need me to do to thrive if I have the power to do that? That's what I want us to do, personally and professionally, right? And that's what we try to do. So to me, that's what it means. Being in a relationship is how you become more human. I'm trying to get in relationship, even when it's not comfortable, right? And for someone with a spirit like mine that loves to fight, it's critical that I do that, because otherwise I'll end up becoming the very thing that I'm working against, right? And it's always easy to see the thing you're working against out there, never realize, you know what, actually your heart is cold. Your soul ain't really where it needs to be either. And so it keeps me rather humble.
There's also this thing, it's very easy for me to criticize the right.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to put air quotes around it. It's a real thing. I can criticize the right, and I do it quite often, and I'm justified. I'm right. I think I'm right most of the time. And we all have some room to grow and to improve. And this word comfort that you just used reminded me that we who lean left have a predilection for comfort, of not being discomforted by exposure to difference, ourselves, to different terms or different ideology. And there's a tension. Like, we want to be respectful. We want to make sure everyone feels welcome and included. And we have to get along with and be around people who are not like us. And I have felt that tension in myself. Like, I don't want nothing to do with so-and-so. I want to be interdependent with my people, right? Not y'all. Because you're trying to build a very different country. And why would I want to love that, be in relationship with that, be interdependent with that, co-found with that? How do you all wrestle with, in the organization or as people, this, the internal challenge, like within our own side, of facing some of these same challenges of the For All, and particularly the comfort?
Because you watch it tear the nonprofit sector apart over just the last couple of years. We all became judge and jurors. In many ways, that's why you're getting some of this pushback right now, right? Because we became so righteous this is why we actually started moving to the all. You know, you start looking around the nation and you say, wow, the nation is getting ready really soon to be a nation of color. And yet there's this belief that because a population's skin color is going to change, the nation's going to get better. Mm-hmm. That's an arrogant ass belief. Yeah. And we ain't even stopping to say, whoa, do you hear what you just said? Mm-hmm. First of all, that's dangerous. And you haven't even questioned your heart or your head. You just said, skin color is going to make the nation better. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we start watching it play out in our sector. Just the fighting. And the right didn't have to do anything. Mm-hmm. We were already tearing ourselves apart and making ourselves incapable of actually doing much at scale. Yeah. So for me, seeing that said that you got to recenter the all because we've lost our way in all of the intersectional interests that are absolutely important. Yeah. But if they divide you to the point where you can no longer see each other's humanity, even before you get to the right, what's the point?
Yeah. That's the two things. One is if we put politics aside, just this year, like the very first day of the year started off with a terrorist attack in New Orleans, followed by a bombing in Las Vegas, right? And then when the wildfires in Los Angeles, took hold, we immediately reverted back to, well, who's going to be the winners and who's going to be the losers? So we don't need politics to prove that we've stopped seeing each other and lost the ability to care for each other. I mean, that is just, folks felt so lonely, right? That they would do harm to others. So that's enough proof on its own of the importance of the all. And when we go back to thinking about organizationally, this value around love for us is accompanied with accountability. Yeah. They're twins, right? Like you don't have one without the other. And when I think about the bombings and I think about the terrorist attack and all of that, it also feels like a part of I'm responsible. There's something I'm supposed to do to help people feel seen at a level that they don't have to do that. That's our collective responsibility. But that goes back to interdependence, right? Yeah. That we should feel not like, oh, that's so terrible that they did that thing. But our first response could be, damn, you didn't feel like I was holding you, right? That you weren't feeling like we were delivering what you needed. Yeah. And that's where the accountability comes in. It's not just about performance reviews or did you do good with your convening? It really is we say love, and then can you hold us accountable for delivering that? And can we expect you to do the same?
Yeah. There's a very popular quote, William Gibson, I believe, said the future is already here. It's not just evenly distributed. Yeah. And so you have these pockets of innovation and high-tech Star Trek things that are happening. I think the same is true of the democracy that we seek. Yeah. It is already here. And I suspect in the refounding language, we've already got some examples of institutions or towns or cities or organizations or just groups of people who have already demonstrated some refounding, regrounding in some principle. Do you have any examples from your universes that come to mind of the refounding already underway?
Yeah, there are two. One, clearly I love New Orleans.
It's a lovable place.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Well, we have a state government with leadership that's comfortable with what's happening in the world right now. And so, what we saw was a move to add things to our state constitution that really were doing everything from having our kids be imprisoned as adults to making it harder for folks to express their voting rights, to expanding courts just because we feel like it, we just make a new court for this thing, right? And it was scary. And yet, over the last several years, there have been everyday people in New Orleans and across the state of Louisiana who have started recognizing, they don't say I'm a founder, but it's wait a minute, we have agency. Yeah. We can do something about this. And so they looked at those 4 state amendments and were like, absolutely not. And the campaign that defeated all 4 amendments was called No to All, y'all.
No,
Right? It was very clear, right?
Yeah.
But when you think about it, what they were fighting for was the same stuff that we romanticize at the start of this. It was like, wait a minute, we had our own Boston Tea Party, right?
Yeah.
Like, no,
Yeah.
we are not going to allow you to like not represent us and to take away our power and to take away the resources that would allow us to thrive.
Right.
And so even just in this year, you're seeing folks who are like, I'm not trying to be rivalrous. I'm not trying to fight you. I'm just trying to stand for the people of this state.
Is there anything else you want to add in terms of some examples? No pressure?
No, you see some things structurally, like in New York,
Yeah.
amending their charter to center racial equity. And
Right.
that was a bold move, but
Right.
they've done that, right? You see conversations around what type of budget do we want to have? Do we want to have a budget where over 60% of the general revenue is going to policing?
Yeah.
Do you want to have a police force and a police state at the expense of libraries,
Right.
after school programs,
Yeah.
housing programs? These are questions of democracy.
Yeah.
What type of community do you want to have? And it is everyday folks leading these charges all over the country.
Reminds me of a story that we told to How to Citizen this spring of 25, after the Eden fires in particular in Altadena, historically Black neighborhood, very diverse economically. And there's a lot that a government can do. There's a lot that a government should do, but there's a lot the government wasn't doing. And so the community came together, and I would call this a citizening moment as a verb, maybe a refounding moment, because it's a group called Dina Heals. And this was a multiracial group centered on love. It was like love for Altadena and Pasadena was driving it. And they were providing meals for each other, care for each other, clothing for each other, art and joy in a physical gathering space to essentially answer like what makes us Dina. And it was getting to the root of their attachment to this place. Not just because I owned a house here. There was a property element, but there was a communal belonging, neighbors knowing neighbors and helping each other out that a government alone can't do. Like the people have to take it up as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
And are going to have to do more of it with the government that has continued to say, you don't deserve a safety net.
Yeah.
Right? And so this is why I'm also hopeful. There's going to be enough shared pain. The middle class folks getting ready to feel like trying to care for their grandparents, their parents.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity for us to seize on a moment that could be a solidarity moment if we're smart.
Yes. Yeah, it's coming for us all. And there's so much unnecessary pain in that.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it will not go to waste. And we can kind of convert that pain into something a little more promising. The idea of everybody taking up this mantle of being a founder sounds good. And I'm a fan of beautiful words. I try to use them regularly. Practically speaking, what does it mean? Because I'm having images of a convention hall somewhere and some quills and scrolls and scrolls. And what is a day-to-day experience of someone who may have considered themselves a citizen or a resident or a voter or an activist or just a neighbor to step into this bigger shoe called founder?
The founder stands for us. It is an idea and it is a way of behaving.
Okay.
And this was really important to us to get beyond just the aspiration of what it means to be a founder. The founder stance for us is the way you can be in this moment and beyond. And so a founder stance is saying, imagine what you could be or what you could become. And then we're going to give you, this is what PolicyLink does, we're going to give you what we think are the most fundamental capacities to actually take that up in your day-to-day work.
So there's 6. The first really is about foresight. So are we willing to actually just take a beat and look up?
I'm going to take a beat with that. That is a profound invitation because so many of us, and I'm a privileged person, but so many people cannot afford to look up, or they feel like they can't afford to look up. Like when the ground is crumbling beneath your feet, you want to look down to make sure you're stepping on solid ground. So to pause and look up, what's the value of looking up?
you can make sense of what's actually happening.
So this is why I'm getting excited, because I'm learning with you. I mean, they gave me some briefing papers. I do have some idea of where we're going. I have foresight. And I'm just like feeling it, and I'm getting excited because of some of these original principles that have been here, and all kind of indigenous communities around the globe, not just in North America. 7 generations.
Yes.
Right? You make decisions now, governing decisions now that consider the future. But if you never look up and you're overly consumed by today, tomorrow, the next quarter, because of fiscal, proximity, then you might not see the full set of considerations you need to have in your decision making. So foresight, I got you. What are some of these other
radical
capacities?
Imagination. So I can see that there's more that's possible than here. Will I just say, if I could just fix this little thing right here, right? Like maybe I just fix this little traffic light at that corner and not realize that like, oh, there's this other bigger, broader place that I could be playing, that I could think about the systems and the structures and not just me and mine, but what we could all have. Radical imagination is like, I am free to consider the fullness of possibility, of a thriving future. And I got enough sass.
Like, what do you call it? Yeah, sass, that's the word.
Right?
Yeah.
To like, not just speak it, but to start to lean into.
Yeah. Foresight, radical imagination. What else?
Radical imagination is the bigness of your idea. Audacity is like the sassiness with which like I believe I can deliver that, right? But audacity has to be accompanied with humility, that it's not just me, right? And that it's a we thing, but it's also that my individual power is so small when we consider the collective power that we could have, that there really is the wholeness of who we are to each other. Actually, it matters, but that I'm humble enough to even accept that, hold that. Then love for all. You know, this little hard thing about loving. You want to say anything more about love? So, you know, that we actually have to have souls that can love all so that we can govern for all. And then the one I believe is the hardest. Self-renewal.
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 And that doesn't mean like growing a new finger.
If you want to, you could, you know, but
what is self-renewal?
It really is getting comfortable with the idea, being willing to ask yourself, is there something that I'm doing now that no longer serves me, that no longer serves us? And then being willing to like release it, to make room for something else.
So y'all are operating at like a different frequency. These are not typical platforms for like civil rights organizations or social justice organizations. Sometimes they're implied. You've made them explicit. And I think that the combination of humility, love, and self-renewal, that's some deep stuff, because so much leadership we are taught is projecting correctness, know-it-allness, self-righteousness over self-renewal. And there's a burden of having to have all the answers. And if you ever admit that you don't, or that maybe something you're doing is contributing to the problem, well, you just keep that to yourself and you barrel forward. That is a model, it's a very popular, not healthy, but a very popular model of leadership. And so what I'm hearing here is a commitment to not that, to being a participant in the evolution yourself, seeing not just the nation as imperfect, but as oneself as imperfect. And to acknowledge that and be like, okay, look, I'm not just calling other people out, right? So I don't know, that we might be contributing to some of the system that we no longer want, that we might need to release something that no longer serves, is an act of liberation that takes a lot of courage and self-awareness.
It's the same way at PolicyLink. You know, when Angela and I went through a very beautiful transition, I asked the question, does PolicyLink deserve to exist still? Imagine an institution like PolicyLink that's got a good brand, had a seminal leader. No one could ever replace Angela. Yeah. You could draft off of just those two things, brand and her seminal leadership for the next 20 years before someone says, you know what, y'all been played for 20 years. Right? And then you wake up and like a cancer, your organization dies. That's a perfect self-renewal moment to say, well, if we've accomplished what equity wanted in phase one, which was to say, can we get all three sectors to come to it? You've done that. So now what? And so this is how we get to nation building. I often say, the PolicyLink could have become the Nokia of the equity movement.
Oh, wow.
Right? Remember when Nokia was
sick burn, bro.
It was a market leader.
To the kids. Nokia was a smartphone company out of the Scandinavian region. They used to run the whole game. Yeah. But they sat on their laurels, stopped innovating, and Steve Jobs came along and was like, I'll take your whole market.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And that's who we could have become. Because there was nothing else to do but to do the last generational work. And to just simply do grant deliverables for the next 20 years is not the work.
Yeah.
And so that's why these capacities that Ashleigh shared, especially the one around self-renewal, is so important.
Yeah. Well, we're being drawn to a moment of self-renewal. This 250th anniversary of the country and the Declaration of Independence that set us on this particular path with those particular founders. So we haven't chosen it. Most of us are just born when we're born. But we are overwhelmed by the opportunity to lean into this founder stance, to consider ourselves that, to apply these key capacities to build the democracy where everybody can have a good life. I like that.
That's it.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Are you down?
I'm down.
Are you down?
Absolutely.
Are you down? I want to thank you both for this flowing, free, beautiful, vulnerable conversation. I'm looking forward to more of these with y'all.